Let's talk about Derek Carr and the New Orleans Saints. This may be the most overlooked and undervalued team in the NFC South. Now, it's a lot of positives with the Saints, and it's a lot of negatives as well. When I look at the New Orleans Saints, they do not have a bad football team at all. They have players that can go out there and give you a lot of production, but at the same time, they're not a great football team either. Give the ownership and the general manager a lot of credit. Even dating back to when they had Drew Brees on the roster for the last 3 years of his career, they were dealing with salary cap issues. But yet the general manager and the ownership went out there and they figured out a way to manipulate the cap. It seems like every single year in the offseason, right before free agency starts, the Saints are dealing with cap space issues. And a couple weeks after, they're underneath the salary cap, they can make some moves to go out there and they can fix things. So even though a lot of people are saying, hey, eventually this is going to catch up to them, it might. Financial wise, this general manager has found a way to go out there and just avoid this. We'll see how long that they can continue to do that. When I look at the Saints right now, Derek Carr is not a franchise quarterback. He's more so of a bridge quarterback, in my opinion. He's in that above average or just slightly above average conversation. Derek Carr is not a top 10 quarterback. Derek Carr on his best day could be a top 15 quarterback. And I understand what a lot of Saints fans are going to say. The offensive line was terrible last season. And that is true. But it's always an excuse for Derek Carr, even dating back to the Raiders. They said the defense was no good. Derek Carr is one of those quarterbacks that's very streaky. At the end of the day, he'll have one good game, 3 passing touchdowns for over 300 passing yards one week. The next week, he may throw 2 interceptions and have only 200 passing yards. That's the quarterback that he is. That's not going to change. But Clint Kubiak can come in here and he can help out Derek Carr. Because I will say this, not many quarterbacks in the NFL would succeed underneath Pete Carmichael. I will give Derek Carr grace on that. Pete Carmichael was a terrible offensive coordinator. He was horrible. The only reason why he was the main offensive play caller for these first 2 seasons with Dennis Allen and this administration is because he was Sean Payton's friend. That was it. You don't believe me? Guess where Pete Carmichael is now? He's on the coaching staff with the Denver Broncos. He was a horrible offensive play caller. He should have got fired after that first season, but Dennis Allen wanted to keep him around. It's also another reason why I believe there's a lot of pressure on Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen has been going out there and getting players that he wants and has been getting the coaches that he wants as well. He wanted Pete Carmichael. He wanted to bring in Derek Carr. And Derek Carr is an upgrade over Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston, and he is. But the only reason why Derek Carr is here is because he was a coach with the Raiders when Derek Carr was there. He was the head coach there. And he helped go out there and pick up Derek Carr. I will say this. If it doesn't work out this season, the entire coaching staff is gone and Derek Carr is gone as well. Derek Carr has to show up big this season. The problems that I have with the Saints is that their offensive line isn't really good. Ryan Ramczyk, your best offensive lineman, is going to miss all of this upcoming season. He's still dealing with a knee injury. He's going to miss all of this season. So you're depending on Trevor Penning yet again. The plan was to go out there and select a tackle in the first round, like how they did with Fuaga, who was going to be a very good tackle with them moving forward. They're going to have him and Ryan Ramczyk. You were going to just put Trevor Penning on the bench or he could just be a swing tackle. That's no longer the case. Trevor Penning is a bust. He missed a lot of games his rookie season recovering from a foot injury. And his second year in the NFL, he couldn't block anyone. And he gets a lot of holding penalties as well. He is a terrible tackle, and he is scheduled to be the starting right tackle with the Saints. That is not a good sign. But you have Talasay Fuaga at the left tackle position. Eric McCoy is a very good center. Cesar Ruiz is a very good guard. He's inconsistent at times, but he's very reliable in terms of staying healthy on the field. So you have 3 very good offensive linemen, potentially. It's just the left guard position, and it's that right tackle position. And part of the reason why Derek Carr wasn't as consistent last season wasn't only because of the play calling. The offensive line was no good. Go back to that Packers game. They were up big in that game. Derek Carr gets knocked out. You plug in Jameis Winston. He didn't have time in the pocket. And you know what happens with Jameis Winston when he doesn't have time in the pocket. He's going to throw a lot of interceptions. And that's what happened in that game. A lot of Saints fans like to argue and say, hey, if we didn't lose that football game, we go to the NFL playoffs instead of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That is true. That's a hypothetical, but it is true. I can't argue that. But at the same time, how far would they have went in the NFL playoffs? And this is a Saints team that has not made the NFL playoffs since 2020. That is ridiculous. That's not the standard for the Saints. Underneath that Sean Payton era, there were a top team in the NFC. And over the last few years, we've seen them get knocked down from the peg. And I don't like to see that, but it has happened. You have very good wide receivers as well. Rashid Shaheed is a very good wide receiver, can take the top off the defense. He fits great alongside Chris Olave. It was too many times last season that Derek Carr and Chris Olave were not on the same page. Chris Olave was not in the right spot. Derek Carr would throw the football into the wrong place. Or Chris Olave runs the route the right way. Derek Carr misses him. And it was a lot of miscommunication. A lot of that just comes down to chemistry and reps, but it also comes down to Pete Carmichael as well, to not moving Chris Olave around as much on the offensive side of things. You can put him inside the slot, take him outside the slot, just find a way to get him the football. But him and Rashid Shaheed are the two top targets in that receiving room. So I'm telling you, there's talent here. You also have a very good tight end in Juwan Johnson. Juwan Johnson could not stay healthy last season. He was dealing with a foot injury. He just got activated yesterday. I believe that Juwan Johnson, as long as he can stay on the field, he's going to be a reliable tight end, especially on second and third down. I like his game a lot. Go back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. He was making a lot of crazy catches. And Derek Carr has a good rapport with him. He had a good rapport with him in last year's training camp. It's just unfortunate that he got injured. But if he can stay healthy with those two good wide receivers, you're going to be in a very good situation in the receiving game. The running backs, I like Alvin Kamara a lot. He just has to stay healthy. He has not been the same Alvin Kamara that he once was underneath Sean Payton. A lot is because of injuries. He was suspended for 3 games to start last season. But as long as he can go out there and he can be that Christian McCaffrey type of running back, you're going to be great. And part of the reason why he wasn't as effective last season, Jamal Williams, the man that led the league in rushing touchdowns a couple of seasons ago, this man was rarely on the field last season because of injuries. He's a very good power back. When you need 2 or 3 yards, he can get you that. When it's the goal line situation, you could put him in the game. You're going to need him to be healthy because part of the reason to why Alvin Kamara hasn't been able to be as effective, remember, when they had Sean Payton as the head coach, Alvin Kamara was splitting carries with Mark Ingram. Jamal Williams can have the similar effect. Not saying that he's Mark Ingram, but he's a very good power back. You have Kendre Miller as well, who's also a very good running back. So the running back room is loaded. It just comes down to health. But I really like Alvin Kamara to be the top dog in terms of just getting touches. But in terms of just going in between the tackles, when you just need short yards, just put in Jamal Williams. Let him do the dirty work and save some of the workload for Alvin Kamara when you need him in the receiving game. That's also another reason why this offense hasn't been as good, because of players like Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill have just been completely phased out of the receiving game underneath Pete Carmichael. Makes zero sense. They had Alvin Kamara inside the slot when Sean Payton was here. And I understand Drew Brees played a huge part into that, but that last season that Sean Payton was the head coach with the Saints, Drew Brees was not around. He retired. We have to remember that as well. So when you have a guy like Alvin Kamara and that skill set, utilize it. Do what Kyle Shanahan has done with Christian McCaffrey. Get him involved inside the slot. Move him around. They primarily just used him as just a regular running back last season. And I'm not just talking about screens. Screens don't count. Almost any starting running back in the NFL can catch a screen pass. Get creative with Alvin Kamara. Let him run plays into the flats. Let him run plays across the middle of the field to help Derek Carr see the field better. That was just terrible play calling and just terrible structure by Pete Carmichael. But the offense is going to come down to the consistency with Derek Carr and the offensive line play. Now, if Derek Carr can go out there and he can be more consistent on certain drives, especially on third down, they're going to be very good. And I understand we could point to a lot of games last season, later in the season against the Jacksonville Jaguars, when he throws the football in the back of the red zone and the tight end drops it. He catches that football, you win the game. And that's also another win that could have went to the Saints' pocket. So they're not far off. I understand what some Saints fans are talking about. They're not far off from last season. But this isn't last season. A lot has changed since then with the talent. Look at what the Falcons have done with their team. Look at what the Panthers are doing right now. Panthers are rebuilding. But look at what they're doing. They're putting more talent around Bryce Young and on the defensive side of the ball as well. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they may have the best wide receiving core in this division. with Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and those guys, and that tight end and Cade Otton. But the Saints defense, they're equipped to go out there and stop guys like that. You see, the Saints defense was very good last season in the first half of the season. Back half of it, they lit up some big plays. We can go back to the Jacksonville Jaguars game yet again on Thursday Night Football game. It was a stick and nod route by Christian Kirk. The cornerback gives it up. Well, it wasn't even the cornerback, it was Tyrann Mathieu that gave it up. Dennis Allen had him in one-on-one coverage. Makes zero sense. I'm telling you, the coaching with this team doesn't make sense either at times, especially on third down. Why would you put Tyrann Mathieu in that situation? It makes zero sense to me. And I understand that Tyrann Mathieu has played cornerback before in his career. Those days are long gone. He's a better safety. Just put him over the top. And one-on-one coverage as a cornerback makes zero sense, especially inside the slot. But when you look at this Saints defense, they have a lot of talent. Cameron Jordan is on the decline in terms of sacking the quarterback. Can still go out there, can still stop the run. He's not going to go back there and put a lot of pressure on the quarterback. But you do have Carr Granderson, who was their best pass rusher last season, led the team in sacks. And Carr Granderson is going to be a star. I really do believe that. You also signed Chase Young as well. Chase Young, very good football player as long as he can stay on the field. His motor is in question on third down. That's why the San Francisco 49ers are scratching their heads in that Super Bowl, because he would take certain plays off. And he did the same thing with the Washington Commanders. If you can just get him at full go, very good player. There is some concerns there, but Chase Young can immediately go out there, stop the run. It gives you more of a preference. Having him with this roster also takes a lot of pressure off of Cameron Jordan as well. So their front four is very good. I like their defensive tackles as well. Brian Bresee is still a young player. I think that he can develop and he could be a very good defensive tackle long term in terms of pushing the pocket and just getting to the quarterback. I love his story, by the way, what he's doing for his sister and things that happen of that nature. She had cancer. Unfortunately, she passed away. He does a lot of great things off the field, but on the field, he's a very good player as well. It's the reason why they spent a first-round pick on this kid. I'm high on him. He suffered some major injuries in college, but he's a very good football player. Can stop the run, can eat up double teams. In the next couple of years, he's going to be a star defensive tackle. You guys can bet on that. He's a very good player. I like Kalen Saunders as well. Their linebackers, DeMario Davis, you guys know how I feel about him. A slept-on linebacker, one of the better linebackers in the NFL. The problem is he is 35 years old. He is getting older. But you just signed Willie Gay from the Kansas City Chiefs. Road Raider. Can go out there, immediately stop the run. You can send him on blitzes. He's a fast linebacker. He can cover in space. He's very good as well. And I like Pete Warner. So their linebackers and their pass rush, very good. As long as those guys can go out there and they can play together as a unit, you're going to be okay. Their secondary is their strong suit. That's the crazy thing. As good as their front seven is, and as good as those linebackers are with flying around, their secondary is easily the strength of this football team. Marshawn Lattimore was banged up last season. Their secondary is so good, you could possibly move off of Marshawn Lattimore and you will still be okay. And I'm not saying that they should go out there and trade Marshawn Lattimore. But you have Kool-Aid McKinstry. Right now, he is banged up. Hopefully, he'll be ready to play week 1. But Kool-Aid McKinstry, very good football player coming out of Alabama. Marshawn Lattimore, we know when he's fully healthy what he does to Mike Evans. He's a true number 1 cornerback in the NFL. Alontae Taylor, a very good player as well. He can flip around in that secondary. Paulson Adebo, you can make the case he was their best cornerback last season. The man had 4 interceptions and 18 pass deflections, and he didn't give up many big plays either. You have Tyrann Mathieu, who is older, but he's still a very good safety to have with that veteranship. So the Saints have talent. They are being overlooked and a bit disrespected, but I don't really blame the national media because you look at all the moves that the Falcons are making and all the moves that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have done with their offensive line. I fully understand that. But at the same time, I will say this. The Saints are in contention to make some noise in this division and to possibly win this division. I just mentioned 2 games from last season. The Green Bay Packers game, which a lot of Saints fans like to focus on. I go back to that Jacksonville Jaguars game. If that tight end, Foster Monroe, if he catches that football in the back of the red zone, they win that game. Easy. They go out there, they win that football game, and it breaks the tiebreaker with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And they beat them the last time these 2 teams faced each other. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you guys feel about the New Orleans Saints? Do you think that they could possibly go out there and win this division? I will say this right here. They can, but it's going to be highly unlikely because of how tough their schedule is. The Falcons have a significantly way easier schedule than what the Saints have. The Saints have to face the Kansas City Chiefs. They have to face the Philadelphia Eagles. They're on the road a lot against some of their harder opponents for this upcoming season. It's going to be tough. But a brand new offensive coordinator brings in a lot of light. It's a lot of positives here. It's a lot of negatives. But I really do believe this as well. They signed Derek Carr to avoid a hard reset and a hard rebuild. And I understand what they were trying to do. But there's a lot of Saints fans that are saying, hey, we don't need a hard rebuild. We have Spencer Rattler. This is a part of the video where I want to just get strictly into Spencer Rattler. He's looked very good in the preseason. He has. He did struggle against the San Francisco 49ers. That is expected. He's a rookie. I don't expect for him to come in and give you immediate production day one or even in year number one. And if the Saints don't finish with an above 500 record, they're going to fire Dennis Allen and Derek Carr may be pushed out the door. Do you really have that much faith in Spencer Rattler moving forward? And it is going to be a weak quarterback class in next year's draft class. You may find a diamond in the rough with this kid. He was a high recruit coming out of high school. He went to Oklahoma. He was their blue chip prospect until a certain guy named Caleb Williams came there and basically just took the reins from him. And the Oklahoma fans did not help with this kid's confidence because when he struggled in one game, they were saying, we want Caleb. They put Caleb in. The rest is history. He goes out, he transfers to South Carolina. He dealt with adversity. That's what you would like to see in a possible franchise quarterback. Not only did he do that, that broke his confidence that night because he was crying on the sideline when he was throwing the football. Not only just that, it helped him mature as well. Because we go back to the Last Chance University documentary on Netflix. I don't know why so many people are hard on a kid that was in high school. He was in high school. A lot of these people in the national media go up there and they try to speak all high and mighty. Let's go back to see what they were saying in high school. And he'll just say dumb things like, hey, my wide receivers suck. My offense line isn't any good. I'm the best player on this field. He would say stuff like that. He was cocky. He was arrogant. He was a kid. I won't hold that against him because a person better change from high school to college till now. He's grown. He's more confident and he's more mature. I think that the Saints possibly do have a franchise quarterback, but I don't want to put that label on him because he has only looked good in the preseason. If Derek Carr goes out there, he does get injured, and knocking on wood that doesn't happen. I don't want to see anyone get injured. But if he does have to miss a game or miss a half of a game like how he did against the Green Bay Packers, I don't see them putting in Spencer Rattler. I see them putting in Jake, their backup quarterback right now. I think that he can go out there and he can handle that pressure. Take care of Spencer Rattler. Let this kid develop. Don't rush this process. Even if the Saints only have 3 wins, let's just say they're 3-7. Don't just put in Spencer Rattler. Take care of this kid. Let him develop behind the scenes because I don't believe that he's ready to play right now. The NFL speed is way different than what it is at the college level. And it's the reason why he slid in the NFL draft as well, minus the maturity concerns. It's a lot of holes in his game that need to be cleaned up. Just because you're a star in the preseason doesn't mean that you're going to be great in the regular season and long term. I use guys like Kenny Pickett. Look at him. Very good for the Steelers last year in the preseason. Look at him now. It doesn't always translate over. The same with Jameis Winston. The man will have some games in the preseason that make you shake your head and say, hey, he can be a starter. Same with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. He's a backup with the Cleveland Browns. He came in and thrown 4 interceptions against the Baltimore Ravens. You want to take care of the young quarterbacks. Let them sit back, let them develop, and let them see what's going on. Not everyone has to go out there and be a Brock Purdy. Look at how rare that is. It's a chance that he will be a star, but I don't want to see the Saints rush this process. But if Spencer Rattler can go out there and he can develop and he can be their guy, it's no reason to go out there and just reset this entire thing. I hate when people say they just need to go into an entire rebuild. You may lose some veterans like Marshawn Lattimore. You trade him for some assets. DeMario Davis may leave. Tyrann Mathieu may leave as well. But you have some young star players. Guys like Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Fuaga at the tackle position, Ryan Ramczyk. Maybe he'll come back. You really don't know. David Bakhtiari had to retire. He never played again after he was dealing with his knee injuries. Hopefully that's not the case with Ryan Ramczyk because he's been one of the best tackles in the NFL. You may lose Alvin Kamara, but you build this offensive line up. Almost any running back can work behind a very good offensive line. That's been proven. And I mentioned the young players on the defensive side of the ball as well. You could take away Chase Young, take away some of those guys. You're still going to have Carl Granderson, who's going to be there to be your pass rusher. So the Saints have some young players. They're not a complete football team, but they have enough to go out there and compete in this division. It's going to be tough, but if they can't find that playoff success this season, unfortunately, Dennis Allen's going to have to go. I was underneath the belief that he was going to go after year number 1 because of how bad things were. Yes, he finished the season strong, but that's been the case the first 2 years. They have to go out there and find that production. But let me know in the comment section below, what should the Saints do moving forward? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for watching the video, guys. God bless.